Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Kunifax in the 5-minute pool on ICC. This player is an FM rated 2173. They have yet to make a move, but they've opened with D3 now. Okay, we'll occupy the center with D5. Usually this is a prelude to some sort of King's Indian attack setup or something along those lines. But white is playing in experimental fashion, so let's see what they want to do. If they want to take on F6 or move the knight. I think I'll take this way. Probably knight E4 will be played, and their knight might be chased to the king's side. Ooh, this is just bad though, right? So if I go here, I think they have to play knight d2, because otherwise bishop b4 check is a problem. Yeah, so there it goes. Now, let's try to get this bishop to the long diagonal. So I'm going to play bishop b7, and yeah, they're going to play knight f3 now, but make sure that that light square bishop has an opponent, basically. Okay, let's just develop normally. Then we'll castle. I'll probably go for c5, but yeah, I don't know if there's any reason not to. I was thinking whether I could dispense with that move, but it looks necessary. I expect white to try some sort of pawn break at some stage, like e3 or c3 maybe. Probably putting the bishop here is smart. Looks nice and safe on f6. My bishop is undefended, so I got to watch for discoveries and things like that, but I don't see any way that white can really take advantage at the moment. Okay, well, if I go a5, they might play a4. Do I really care, though? No, I think this is good. With rook b1, white is so obviously preparing for b4 that I think it makes sense to stop that. Yeah, now I was going to do this, and make sure if they play that, I can always take en passant. I might send this knight through a6, like maybe knight a6 to c7, possibly to e6 later on. I'm liking my space edge plus bishop pair at this stage. I played this player before, but I don't really remember anything about them. So they do break with e4. I could take this way and get rid of my doubled pawn, but I think it's more promising to take like this. So let's do that. And then maybe just rook e8. Target this e3 pawn, which has potential to be weak. I still haven't touched this knight, but sometimes there might be a minor piece in your camp that is difficult to pinpoint, like where it should go. And in such cases, you shouldn't just develop it because you want to say that you have all your pieces developed. It can make sense to wait and let the position kind of clarify so you can actually send it to a useful square rather than just a square. Okay, e4. So if I take in the center, then are they going to take with the knight? Is that their point? I can give a check on d4. It doesn't seem to make much sense, though. Probably taking. Yeah, if they take with the knight, I might just give up my light square bishop. But I could also play bishop e7, just drop that back and maybe play around. Deciding how valuable this piece really is to me. So if I take, probably pawn takes. Yeah, I think I'm going to preserve this bishop. So let's just drop it back to e7. Now white has to play for activity, because I think if they don't, I will get coordinated, and I like my bishop pair. So I'm looking to play something like knight d7, or maybe knight c6 and into d4. Queen c7 also would help a lot, just defending everything. Okay, here I think I'm going to play knight c6. Yeah, let's do that. I expect white to play c3, because having the knight a stone's throw away from the d4 square is not very pleasant. Maybe f5 becomes possible, though. f5, and white is precariously placed on this file. I don't think they want to stick around there for too long. Okay, so queen f2. If f5, knight c3, bishop f6, how do I like that position? Yeah, it's okay, but nothing special. Queen d7, maybe? Yeah, let's play the queen to d7. Connect the rooks, defend the bishop. I hope a4 is not overextended. There's always a chance it could be, but for the moment, I think it's fine. So again, looking at f5, f5, knight c3, bishop f6. The idea of jumping into d4 soon. Let's pursue that plan. Time is about even. So if knight c3, bishop f6, they can take on e8, though. And unfortunately, I can't take this way because they have knight takes a4. That's a detail I missed. Okay, but they didn't play that. Looks like they're going to c4 instead. All right, let's do this anyways. If knight c4, I might put the queen on c7, just readjust a little bit, and then play for b5. I could also just swap on e2 and then maybe play rook e8. That's probably even better. Yeah, so if knight c4, rook takes e2, queen takes e2. Okay, they're doing that instead. Well, let's take the file. Bring this over. If queen f2, probably knight d4. Any reason to delay this? None that I see. Yeah, let's jump in here. Take with the bishop. Queen f1. It feels like I should be able to punish them somehow. How to do that, though? f4 doesn't really work. b5 could be played. Let's go b5. It looks useful. Just stop the knight from ever coming up. I'm allowing white to trade, but I'm trying to trade on my own terms, right? Like, I'm trying to make sure if we swap the bishops, I get to take with check and hit the white king. White's a bit bound up. Like, the rook is tied down to the defense of b2. The knight is restricted. For sure, black is better here. Okay, now... Bishop e3 or take on g2 now? Or just drop back here? Yeah, let's drop back to f6. I don't want my bishop blocking the file. Okay. Oh, clever. Clever, sir. I see their points. But... okay, I think I can do this. And after king takes, I'm going to play rook d8. Their point is that if I take, I can't take on d3 because they mate me with queen e8. I could give a check here, but I think queen f3 defends. So therefore, I'm going to go here and try to win the d3 pawn. I got to be a little heads up, though, because there's rook e8 tricks. And also, I have a minute left. I like the fact that this knight is way out of play, though. And if they play rook e3, I have bishop g5. So I don't see how white defends. If I get a second here, queen takes d3, rook e8 check, king f7, and I guess they could take on d8, but then I could trade on f1 and then take their rook up a pawn in the endgame. Can I take this there? Check king up. I think it's fine. Yeah, I think it's fine to do this. He's going to go check and then try to get behind. Ooh, maybe not. Okay, let's bring this up then. Knight e5, I don't really care about so much. Should I go for b4? Actually, I think yes. Let's do that. 36 seconds left. So I'm going to swing my rook over here. This is the point. Try to win the b pawn, one of the b pawns, or both, ideally. Knight e5. Do I want to take that? I don't think I really need to, so I'm going to decline it for now. I'll keep my good dark square bishop. White's whole arrangement is really unstable, but it might come down to a time scramble now. Knight c6. That is annoying. I didn't see that. Take, a3. Okay, I'm going to do this. Now we're going to run, both of us. I'm hoping I don't lose. Don't think I will, but I'm not sure. Let's bring this back. It's knight e7, but I can come here. Let's give it check. Can I pick up that knight? I think I might be able to. Yeah, he ran out of time before he could get a move off there. Well, that ending was marred by time pressure, clearly. We're both just firing off the moves. Knight c6 was a clever defense. I didn't expect that because he's challenging me to find a move here. Maybe I should have just realized that white actually has no threat, because with my rook on b3, I'm stopping the pawn from coming up. If b5, I could just take it. So I was getting low on time and just simplified. But in fact, I can just play bishop takes b2, can't I? I don't know why that escaped my attention at the time. But yeah, bishop takes b2, keep the rooks on the board, and my rook is still stopping the pawn. It didn't click for me that b5 was not a threat. However, after the trade, my bishop can't participate in the defense. I can't stop his pawn, I don't believe. Can't go to e5 or d4. So we just got into a pawn push battle, and I actually queened first, but he queens with check. And I'm pretty sure white should be fine here. Maybe white even missed something like... Well, maybe not. Knight e7 seems consistent. White can't go to e5 because my queen covers that square. So knight e7. Yeah, this might just be a draw. I was seeing if I could fork their king and their knight somehow, but I didn't see how I would do that. So I think I had good pressure out of the opening and a better middle game. Right around when white played knight d2, I thought that was a little passive. I thought knight c3 was a better chance, targeting the a4 pawn. And also when they played c3, I had the sense that I might end up winning the d3 pawn. But I think my technique could have been better down the stretch. So let's take a look at it. Yeah, bizarre opening, d3 and then knight c3. Not a great opening by white. I think they're just playing something. Maybe it's a pet line they dabble in from time to time. But white doesn't have much central control here, so I can kind of push them around with my pawns. So that's what I did with d4. Take, and I took with the e pawn. This goes contrary to the normal rule, which says you should take towards the center whenever possible. So g takes f6, but I've seen a lot of Trompowsky positions, which is d4, knight f6, bishop g5, or a pseudo Trompowsky, which is d4, d5, bishop g5. And oftentimes, if there's a trade of white's dark square bishop for the knight on f6, black does not mind taking with the e pawn because you immediately open the dark square bishop. And also you keep your kingside better protected, so if I do castle short in the future, I don't have to worry about a gaping g file that white could use to attack me. So that was the reasoning there. Knight e4, I played f5. Now, if white were to play anything but knight d2, they're in big trouble. I guess knight g3 is the only other safe move. But then I get bishop b4 check-in, and all of a sudden white has to play c3 to try to survive, but probably they're just losing after this move. Yeah, this is terrible. If queen a4, just knight c6, and we defend the bishop, and we still have that threat, and this. White would have to castle queenside or something. So kunifax correctly played knight d2. And then I was trying to anticipate how they would develop their kingside, and I decided that they're probably going to play g3 and bishop g2. So hence I went for b6 and bishop b7, just trying to beat him to the punch. Let's add the engine in right around here. The engine recommends a radical move, g5, and it says clear edge black. Why g5? Just getting the kingside pawns in motion? And then as soon as they play g3, queen d5. Aha. That way if knight f3, we have g4. You know that show, what is that old show? Kids Say the Darndest Things? That's like the computers say the darndest things, right? Like g5, looks like a random move. Looks like a beginner type move, just pushing another pawn. But the engine sees that if white goes for this fianchetto plan, that there's a method to the madness. If knight gf3, g4. Amazing. It's a cool idea. I thought my play was reasonable, though. So bishop b7. Just develop the bishop normally. I see also g6 is a suggestion here, trying to put the bishop on g7. I could try g5 now, but after bishop g2, g4, white has knight h4, and they safely defend. White should be okay. I do have to take some care that my structure doesn't become too weak on the king side. Like, I certainly don't want these doubled f-pawns to become a liability. So bishop e7, bishop g2. We both castled. I played c5. Rook e1. I just put the bishop on f6. Again, I'm not committing this knight because I didn't see a good square for the knight to go to yet. If knight c6, I block the light square bishop. Also, I felt like maybe white could play knight e5 and try to take advantage of this bishop on b7 being undefended. So bishop f6, rook b1. White is indicating that they want to play b4 and try to break up my pawns. So here I felt a5 was fine. Maybe knight c6 now, though, because now if I play knight c6, knight e5 is not possible due to bishop takes f6. So this might have been a good time to play that move. Instead, a5, a3. And I like a4, just so if white ever pushes this pawn, we can take en passant. White went for e4. So here, I took en passant on e3, and I mentioned this during the game, but it's tempting to play f takes e4 so we don't have doubled f pawns. But in playing this way, I keep this diagonal open, and also I create a target on e3 if they take with the pawn. White could take with a rook as well, but I felt like they were going to take with the pawn. And the pawn on f5 does help control some nice squares like e4. So I think that's the correct capture. Pawn takes, rook e8, e4, we swapped. Here I was debating whether to play this, but after d takes e4, white has a slightly worse pawn structure, but it may not matter too much. Also, they have a grip on the d5 square. Perhaps they could use that. This didn't seem like it was much of anything for black, so I dropped the bishop back. I think white's play could be improved right around here. I'm not sure the queen really belongs on e2. All it did was go to f2 thereafter, so yeah, white might be able to play this in a better way. I think all these moves are fine, and then I went for f5. I want to get this knight out of here. I also want to put my bishop back on f6. And here I was criticizing white's decision to play knight ed2. So I really felt like knight c3 was the better option. And this may hold my rook in check because it has to stay here to defend the a4 pawn, or at least it does for now. But the computer doesn't think so. It just says bishop f6. But what then if rook takes e8? Just take with the rook. So there must be some tactical flaw to knight takes a4 then. Let's try to figure out what that could be. So if knight takes a4, that knight is undefended. Could I play something like knight d4? Looking to open up a discovery? But they could just play right back to c3. But then I have knight takes f3, bishop takes f3, bishop d4. So that might be the reason why. So if knight takes a4, knight d4. If knight takes b6, probably just move the queen somewhere. Let's say queen b5, attacking the knight. And then if the knight moves, let's say knight c4, we can take once on f3, force them to take with the bishop, and bishop d4 at the end of the line. So this bishop coming here is something white has to worry about even in that variation where the knight defends this square. So let's verify. But yep, knight takes a4 is met by knight d4. Attack here, and if takes, queen f7 is very good. What about queen b5? Also good. But it really likes queen f7. Interesting. Yeah, and the threat is simply taking and going here. What if they sidestep like this? Rook e2. Too much pressure. Yeah, white's pieces are being caught. Black is winning here. Okay, so white played knight e to d2. So even knight c3 wasn't so good for white. I think the trouble started with this queen e2 to f2 operation. It was a little time consuming, and now my activity is becoming apparent. I mentioned that I felt like I was missing something. All these moves felt normal, just bringing the rook in with tempo. Knight d4 also felt normal. Takes, bishop takes, queen f1. Because I have such tremendous pressure down these diagonals. And white looks so passive. It just seems like a tactic should be present, but I didn't see one. It was coming up empty here. So I just played b5, a useful move, trying to keep the knight out. It might be the case that there is nothing, and I should play some move like this. Yeah, the engine says b5 is good. So b5, c3. Now I drop the bishop back. Also fine. This is good too. If king takes, bishop e3, attacking this. Yeah, that seems Excellent for black as well. Rook e1. And here I traded and played rook to d8. Yeah, attacking this pawn. Because white's dirty trick was that if I take on e1 here, deflecting their queen and then just gobble up the d3 pawn, I'm met with the rude awakening, queen e8 checkmate. So I can't play that. Even in blitz games, you got to verify that you're not just like winning material easily in certain situations. You got to give your opponent credit for finding counter resources. So kunifax is probably just not going to offer me a pawn for free here. He actually saw that and calculated it. So rook d8 attacking d3. And here I went and grabbed that pawn. Looks okay. I see the engine has been recommending g5 in a couple places. g5 seems a little radical, though, and slightly unnecessary. Although I can see the value of it, trying to go here and maybe give white a check on that diagonal. So here, I had to make sure that rook e8 wasn't a problem, because if rook takes, I would lose my queen, right? But fortunately, I can just play king f7, and I didn't see any follow-up for white. They can take here on d8, but then I can take their queen with check. Take, and then take here, and I'm up a pawn in the endgame. Probably it's a winning endgame. So we swap the queens. And I thought white was going to give me a check and then maybe go after the b pawn this way. Let's see what would happen if that was the case. So here, rook b8. I'm still somewhat better, but I might lose the b5 pawn. So g5 is a good move. Idea of that is if white takes, we can play g4 and maybe try to get our rook into d2 with check. This looks like it could put pressure on white, although is it winning? I don't know. Knight e1, check. King f1, take. Why king f1? Why not here? Do I just play rook e2? f4. And if they take, rook d1. Oh, okay, so that way if king f2, then check, and we skewer the king and the knight. That's a nice resource. So the point of f4 in that engine line was to try to get white to take so we can get our bishop here. Because the immediate rook d1 would just be met by king f2, and white is safe for now. But instead, white played kind of passively with rook e2, just trying to defend the second rank. And I think I was doing fine here. Even b4, trying to open up my bishop, get it pointed at b2 is correct. I think I just messed up coming up. Knight e5 check. Okay, so here I can trade. I was wondering about this endgame. I don't know why I was so afraid of this rook ending, but I thought it might be drawish. Check. Here they can't even come up to f4 because they get mated with g5. Well, maybe I had a right to be scared. I mean, this is a 4 versus 3 rook endgame. And if I thought I could keep my bishop on the board as I did in the game with no consequence, then maybe that's not a bad decision. So I moved my king back rather than taking on e5. Knight c6. Yep, and there you go. So I just had to play bishop takes b2 here. I spent about half my remaining time and then traded down, but bishop takes b2 and the a-pawn is probably just running. Unless white comes up with something really creative. Knight d8 I would describe as a creative move, but the threat of rook e8 mate is not going to scare us too much. Just g5. Yeah. Make some space for the king. It feels like we should win this. Yeah, I think black's pawn is more dangerous than white's pawn. Even though for the moment it might stall a little bit. But I'm almost positive had I played bishop takes b2, I would have won pretty easily from here. It's just too hard to play as white with that a-pawn streaking down the board. Yeah, as played, though, we get to this race. Ooh, could I have stopped the pawn? I could. Bishop a3. Not a move I saw. And I didn't even see that right after the game either. I mentioned immediately after the game was over that white was keeping my bishop out with this idea because the knight was controlling e5 and d4. But in fact, there was a way. Bishop a3 trying to come to d6. So if white just pushes, then our a3 pawn, or a pawn is sprinting. Yeah, we're going to win. So bishop a3 was the best move. I think as played, it should be a draw. Let's just verify, but I'm up a pawn, but white has the jump on me. In a way, I'm fortunate that I didn't get hurt because of the queen-knight combo. That's a dangerous attacking combination. White just ran out of time. It was a little tricky for them to play. Yeah, black's a hair better here, probably because I'm attacking the open king, but unless it leads to a material win, it's not going to be anything. It's just they ran out of time at this point. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy with the opening and middle game in this one. I think my build-up was pretty nice, and I won the d-pawn. Maybe took a little bit too much time getting there, but if there was a move I wish I could take back, it's this one right here. I wish I would have played bishop takes b2 instead of rook takes b2. Even though rook takes b2 might still be good, I'd have to find that very specific bishop a3 move, which I certainly did not find in the time scramble. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this game, and I'll be back again soon with another video. Talk to you guys later. Bye.